Well, hello everyone. I am back with the doodle with me. About 60% of you, I think we're at now, maybe 65%, wanted to see Harry Potter doodles. Thank you to all of you that voted. It was my most responded to poll so far, so I totally appreciate it. I'm sorry it's taken me 6 months to do this, and I actually was kind of trying to wait until I could get back into my studio so that you could actually get the overhead camera rig, but due to COVID, I haven't been in the studio. It's been closed down. So I am going to be doing this just with a regular tripod, like old school channel. A long time ago, my channel used to be all by tripod, and then I got overhead rigs. But so anyways, we're going to have to deal with this, so I do apologize. We're going to go ahead and be doing, how many designs are we doing? We are doing 13 different designs. Today, I'm going to do the 3 main Harry Potter characters, obviously, the 4 houses, 3 of my favorite good characters, and 3 of my favorite villains. So that is what we're going to do today. The first few, I'm going to go step by step. I'm going to go slow. A lot of you have mentioned or said to me either in person or in comments that you prefer when artists, you really are looking for channels that break it down step by step. So that's what we're going to do for the first 2 rows, and then the final 2 rows I'll speed up. The black and white version of this, just the ink lines, are going to be available for free download if you sign up for my mailing list. I know I mentioned my mailing list months ago, but due to my health issues and all the things that have happened, I didn't end up getting the mailing list started. So this is going to be my first printable available, and I'm also going to make the cat. So you're going to get 2 free printables in the first email. It's going to be going out on the 3rd week of June. So if you're interested in getting the free downloadable printable of just the line work, and then you can just cut them out and color them and use them in your bullet journals, please do sign up for my mailing list. Today we're also going to talk a little bit about using copyrighted characters. Because obviously when you're using copyrighted characters, there's this kind of weird gray area where some people feel like they can sell it, some people feel like they can't. And while I'm not a legal advisor, I do feel like it's necessary to talk about using copyrighted characters because I love doing fan art and fun things, but because I am a professional artist, there becomes this legal obligation to not do that as much. But I love Harry Potter. We're just going to do this for fun, and obviously I'm not going to be selling these. As much as I would love to make them into stickers or into jewelry, I do not feel like that is appropriate. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. And at the very end of the video, I'll go ahead and color these, probably with some watercolors, because that's what I feel like doing today. So it's going to be a lot of filming today. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So you can see I have some marks on my paper are ready to go, and that is because since I am going to give this as a free printable, the more I can make it even and evenly spaced and nice, the less editing I have to do in Photoshop after the fact. So that's just me pre-planning where I want the characters to kind of go. So today I'm going to be going for the Kawaii Style. If you're not familiar, it's also sometimes called chibi. The difference between Kawaii and chibi is actually just a word verbiage, and there are some characteristics of these characters. They have big heads and big eyes and small bodies, essentially, and are very cute. Kawaii actually means cute in Japanese, and chibi, I believe, means small, and I believe it's like not a slur, but a slang term. But I am not well versed in Japanese, so that's just what I think I remember being told before. So anyways, I am modifying them slightly, as with any design that I tell you guys about. I like to modify to make them slightly mine. So we'll talk about that as well, because most chibi designs don't have noses, but I like to put noses on mine. So that is what I'm going to do. You'll see here I'm just freehanding some circles to start off with. And there's a bunch of options. I feel pretty comfortable freehanding from some circles to get the shape that I kind of like. But if you don't like freehanding, if you don't feel comfortable, I would recommend practicing as much as possible drawing circles. When I went to art school, one of the first drawing classes I had for sequential art, which where, if you're not familiar, sequential art is where you're either storyboarding or working in comic books, where you're going to be drawing a lot of panels and drawing a lot of things. And drawing a lot. and you need things to be relatively accurate. So one of the classes I took, we actually just spent an entire class period just drawing circles. It was kind of crazy and ridiculous, but extremely helpful to get your hand used to drawing like a solid circle. And you'll see here, these are kind of sketchy, and that's because I haven't been drawing enough lately. I've been working a lot more on the computer because of my laser cutter, so I'm getting out of shape a little bit. But if you don't feel comfortable rough-handing it, I do recommend getting a tool like this. This tool I have used for years. You can see it's very scratched and beat up. It has gone with me all around the world. It has been through a lot. I'm pretty sure I've had it, I want to say, over 10 years, and I actually got it secondhand from my dad, who had it even before that. So this tool has been well worth the investment that my dad made. And for me, it's been one of the best tools I've ever had a hand-me-down. There are also these kind of stencils that are available on Amazon that can help you out. I'm going for more of an ovally shape, not a perfect circle, but chibi heads usually do have kind of a perfect circle with a little bit of pop-outs for the chin and the cheeks, but I'm just freehanding it because that's what I want to do. So now that I've got my heads all lined up here, I'm now going to get the body shape, which for me kind of makes me think of like a jelly bean shape almost, with slightly flattened edges on the top and the bottom. So there we go. We got our body shapes. Obviously, for Kawaii Style, you want the heads to be bigger than the bodies. And these bodies are actually kind of big for the Kawaii Style. You could go even smaller, but I prefer to have a more bodily shape that's a little bit like they're little kids almost, rather than completely disproportionate. And then tiny little arms and tiny little legs. As with any when you're first getting started drawing, you really want to draw shapes and not start with the details. I know I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, and I don't want to sound repetitive, but it is very important. And it's not until that really clicks. For me, I was always like, why do I gotta draw these circles? It just feels like a waste of time. Why can't I jump into the details? Because that's what I really like drawing. But then you start realizing how important the spatial relationship between the shapes is. And if you don't get it right in this simple form, then you are most definitely not going to get it right with the small details unless you're tracing. And even then, even when you're tracing, sometimes you'll find if you trace things, they don't turn out looking as good as the original thing. They seem slightly off or slightly wrong, and that's usually because when you're just focusing on the lines and you're not focusing on what it actually, the distance on the page, and there's all sorts of factors. Sometimes you can really tell when something has been traced versus when it's been drawn. I am stumbling all over my words today. Drawn freehand. So now we've got our basic shapes going, and so I'm going to start with Harry Potter. I'm going to stick him right in the middle. I'm not really happy with this head shape, so you can see right away the head shape is kind of longer than the other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and actually redraw this head shape right here and get it to be something that I really want. Yeah, that's a lot better. So now that I've got that going, we're going to go ahead and start with the details of these three characters. And you'll see here I'm staying very light. I'm using a mechanical pencil. Some of my art teachers would gasp because they hate mechanical pencils and say that you should only be using regular pencils that you have to sharpen. But I am a mechanical pencil person, and I really don't feel like it makes much of a difference. But what actually makes the difference is it's a little bit harder to go lightly with a mechanical pencil because it's always sharp. Versus other pencils you have to sharpen, they get dull, and then you get that rounded tip and you get some different lines and line weight with it. But we're going to go ahead and start with the Harry Potter. I always start with the eyes. I find that to be the easiest. And I, just like I did with the body, I block in the shapes. And like I mentioned, most kawaii designs do not have a nose, but I add in a nose. So I figure out where I want the face to kind of sit. And then I'm going to start going in and finalizing things with just a pencil. I'm going to go ahead and ink this after, but I'm getting all of my lines down with pencil first. And for Harry Potter, again, Kawaii usually has big eyes with very little, like sometimes they either have no pupil or a very small pupil. For Harry Potter, I am going to put a little pupil in just because that I feel like the character needs it. And then we're going to do his little scar. So hair shapes, and I actually still struggle with hair shapes, but I'm just going to do a simple 3, maybe 2 parted hair shape here. A little disheveled. I'll zoom in so that you can see here what I'm doing. So I kind of like that. And then I'm going to do them in uniform because I prefer the first 2 videos where they had to wear uniforms. Oh, and I did forget to mention I am using sketches that I already made. So I have my ideas of what I want things to look like. They're very loose and rough, and that's what I'm following. But when I was doing those sketches, I was looking up pictures on Google. I was looking up references. So that's why it may seem like I know exactly what I'm drawing, is because I've done my research already. When you're drawing for the first time, drawing a character, definitely pull up references. Google Images is your friend. And as always, I do like to note, when you're using Google Images, please do not steal and trace or copy directly. Please use your own designs. Obviously, I'm allowing you to copy these designs that I'm making, but that is not always the case with Google Image Search. It just pulls images from everywhere. Unless you put on, if you go in the advanced settings, then you can get, he really looks like an ape with those ears. There we go, it's a little better. Creative Commons. If you're looking for images that you can copy completely copyright free, then you can go in the advanced image search and type in Creative Commons, and then you will get your, I don't know why I did that, because I want to color it with colors. Alright. So now we've got a little Harry Potter. I'm going to go ahead and give him a wand. And just because I love Hedwig, I'm going to go ahead and put a little Hedwig in here. Just a mini one. Actually, snowy owls don't have ears like that. See, I didn't look up reference, so now I don't have the snowy owl. So I'll probably look up a reference before I ink that, but we'll come back to that. So now on the left side here, I'm going to do Hermione. Kind of want to figure out where her hair part is, because where her hair is going to dictate where I put the eyes. So I'm going to put them right down here, right on the line. Get rid of the little nose. So I started to talk about hair shapes, and See, this is why I have a hard time teaching live stream classes, because I get so involved in the drawing that I forget to kind of talk. Hair shapes, getting hair right, takes a lot of practice. It comes pretty naturally to me now. Sometimes I struggle with boy haircuts. I definitely am way better at drawing women and girls than I am drawing boys and men. Just the body shapes and the hairstyles. I'm not used to it because I don't draw it enough. And that just comes with lots of practice. As with anything with drawing. So I'm giving her this, like, she had a robe in one of the scenes that I really liked that had a button right here, and then it was this. It's a little bit different than some of the other ones, a little bit more effeminate, and I really liked that. And I am going to give her a pleated skirt. And her little tiny feet on the bottom there. I'm going to give her the eyes that are like squinty a little bit. And I'm going to give her some pink cheeks. If this is your first time drawing Kawaii Style, I recommend Googling Kawaii faces, and you'll see the different eye options and the different mouth options and cheek options. I'm deviating just slightly, like I said before, because I'm drawing something that feels more like me and my style. But you can go ahead and look. Like I said, I always look for references for anything that I'm doing. I almost always sketch things out first on a different sheet of paper so that when I go to draw, I have an idea of what I want already. So there we go. There's Hermione. And for Ron, I went ahead and skipped the robes. Let me do his face first. I'm keeping his face very simple. I do love his disheveled hair look. And I see him as a character who has disheveled hair, so that's the hairstyle I'm going to go for here. These eyes need to be a little bit further down. So one kind of step that I am skipping over a little bit, I just realized it's comes so natural to me. It's hard for me to realize now, but when you're deciding where the facial elements go, let me just draw something real quick here and I'll erase it. When you're deciding where the facial elements go, if you haven't seen it before, usually you break the face into 4 sections. And I'm not going to do a whole lesson here on faces, but essentially wherever you want your face to be pointing, so this would be a face that's staring directly at you, your eyes are going to be here on that line, your nose and mouth are going to be on that line. And you can move this around, like you draw an oval, and then you kind of say you want a character pointing, looking down, and to its right, its left side, but your right side. You can draw the cross there, and then you know your eyes need to go here, your nose needs to go here, and your mouth needs to go here. And then you're seeing the top of the head more, and so you need more hair. So that's a very simple way to figure out where your eyes and your nose and your mouth go. And that is Basic Drawing 101. So I don't do that as much anymore, especially when I'm drawing these. I didn't do it here, obviously, because I'm so used to already knowing how to do it. It just becomes, it's in my head I'm doing it. I'm not even doing it on paper anymore. So it's important to mention that because, I've heard people complain about YouTubers and how they skip steps and how they jump ahead. And part of that is because once you do it 1,000 times, it becomes so part of second nature when you're drawing that it's hard to go back and remember what it was like when you were first learning these things and first practicing these things. I don't remember learning. I mean, I obviously remember the tools and the tips and the tricks, but I don't remember when I learned that. I mean, it had to be middle school, maybe high school, but pretty sure it was middle school. And that's not always the case for everyone, especially if they didn't feel like connected with art. Then it could have been kind of lost information or never retained. Or some tragedies is that certain schools are cutting art programs, which really is disheartening. I really hope the traffic outside isn't too loud. I've got my front door open today because it's so nice out. And I'm not used to filming voiceovers live, but trying something new. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw in their familiars, because any excuse to draw in cute animals, I'm going to take it. Although I don't remember what Crookshanks looks like, so I'm going to have to come back and do this a little later. So there we go. We've got our first 3 ready to go. And now I'm going to jump into the houses. So that's a little bit of a different shape, so I'm going to do this step by step. And I'm going to start off with Slytherin because I think it's the easiest to draw. Alright, so for the snake, kind of doing this big jelly bean shape. And then I'm going to have his tail wrap around like this. Okay. I'm going to point out his nose just a little bit. Give him an open mouth. And a little fang in there. This is another thing that eyes are really important to practice, because even with a circle, see, he looks kind of like happy, maybe a little dumb, happy. Then you can like, just one little line can make him seem more sad, or you can make a circle, make him seem more angry. These are all things to be aware of when you're drawing, especially when you're drawing characters like this that are very simplified characters. Eyes can make a huge difference. So for this snake, I'm going to do a half circle shape. See if I can get this right. Since Slytherins are kind of feisty, give him some attitude, a little smirk. looking a little more like a worm than a snake, so I'm gonna even this out just a little bit. Make it a little less round and a little more flat. Kind of losing the chibi, I think, a little bit too much. Kind of struggling with this one, so maybe we'll come back to it. I'm gonna leave it for right now and work on Gryffindor, which I am doing a very cute lion. Starting with a very heart-shaped for the face and the mane. Little ears. Give him some happy eyes. So I'm getting kind of loose here with my lines because I know what I want when I ink it. Normally I wouldn't even go this tight, but this is like really tight for pencils. I'm trying to show you the different options. When I ink this, I'm going to add in more details, so we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Now we're going to move on to the badger, which I actually have very little experience with what badgers look like, so I'm going to pull a photo up now so that I have that. So I've got my reference here, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a cute little chubby honey badger. Or American badger, actually, is what I've pulled up. I think what's important when you're drawing like this is drawing through your shapes. So you'll see a lot of times I draw the entire body, and that goes back to like breaking it down into rudimentary shapes and then adding more details. But especially when I don't have a concrete idea or I want to change my idea of what I want, drawing through my shapes also really helps to make sure that my anatomy is kind of looking good, because even when you're drawing in stylized or simplified forms, you still want to kind of note what parts of the animal are vital for people to be able to determine what that animal is. And that's why I'm kind of struggling with the snake, because I don't want people to think it's a worm. I want people to know it's a snake. And so what exact shape is different about a snake than is about a worm, a cartoon worm? I think I'm going to redraw both of these. I really like the way this badger turned out. And I don't think I'm on the right track with the snake and the lion. I like the lion design, but I don't think it's going to match the other ones. So I'm going to try to come up with something a little bit different. Let me try the raven real fast. So for the raven, again, I'm going to go with the jelly bean shape to start with. But I'm going to add in the wings. And the nose here. I don't really like that. I need to make the tail smaller, like they make the wings, and I mean the arms and the legs smaller. Yeah. So I need to make the limbs smaller to make it feel more chibi. And the feet, I'm going to redraw this. So I'm going to jump right into drawing out the rest of these, and I'm going to time lapse over. But just keep in mind kind of like how I'm building my shapes and my lines, and then we'll come back to inking, and I'll slow back down and I'll explain my inking process a little bit for these characters. So while this is sped up, I just want to talk about the rules and regulations and the licensing that I mentioned earlier. Since I am a professional artist, I take it very seriously. I try my absolute best to not break any copyright laws. I purchase licensing for all my music, or I use Creative Commons. And when I use references, I'm very careful to use them as loosely based references. I don't copy compositions. I don't copy positioning. Like if you are copying an animal, I don't copy the body of that animal unless that image is a Creative Commons image, or the photographer has given express permission, because that is stealing. The photographer is the one who spent the time and the energy and the money to go get that shot, and it is not my right to then take it for free and use it in my paintings to make money. A lot of people feel differently, but just know that when you start getting bigger, and if you become popular or famous, you can be sued for using other people's images in your artwork unless they're Creative Commons work. So you definitely want to pay attention to those kind of things. Fan art, again, really big gray area. There's a lot of professional artists who do fan art who sell at anime conventions. But my personal preference is to not even go down that road because I never want to be sued by Disney or Universal Studios in this case. So I do these for fun. I have no plans to sell these or profit off of them. I just make the video for fun, and I am going to give the printable away for free for fun because you guys really seem to want it, and I hope you enjoy it so far. So if you do want to do fan art and that is something you really enjoy, there is licensing that you can purchase. It depends on the characters and where it's coming from, but I know in particular Disney does subcontracted licensing for fan art that you can purchase, and then that gives you the right to then sell it on a professional level as fan art. And I don't think it gives you the ability to use the Disney trademark, but I'm not sure. I've never actually purchased licensing through them, so but there are options out there, and if you really want to consider being a professional artist that does fan art and sells prints of it, you really need to contact a copyright lawyer and get legal advice on how to go about doing that so that you don't end up getting sued, because Disney does go after artists and even Etsy sellers, especially with this whole Baby Yoda debacle that has come out in the last year, where a lot of Etsy sellers got their shops taken down because they didn't have the trademark rights to sell Baby Yoda. So it's just something to be aware of if you plan on doing this in the future professionally. Hopefully that wasn't a little too long-winded. Let's go ahead and jump into the pen and ink here. I didn't slow down. I'm not going to slow down to normal speed here because I didn't end up doing an actual voiceover while I was drawing. I kind of got in the mood of just drawing and trying to get this video done. This entire video ended up taking about 3.5 hours to film, which is a very long time for my art videos. And it's probably going to end up being an hour-long video or close to it. So you'll see here I'm using 3 different pen widths. I'm using microns, and I'm using a 003, a 005, and a 01. Most of the work is being done with the 01, but the fine line details of little things are being done with the smaller ones. But my 005 actually got a little broken, so most of it is the 01 and the 003. And with inking, I'm very confident with it, so I know what I want out of that image. You'll see sometimes I follow the pencil lines exactly, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just use them as a guideline, and I follow the natural flow of the pen. You can make mistakes this way, but I roll with the mistakes. Plus, if anything is really awful, then I just fix it in Photoshop. So because I know that I scan everything in and I don't sell originals of this kind of work, it's very easy for me to just kind of go with the flow and enjoy it. But I also have a lot of practice with microns. So essentially, when you're inking, the only thing you really want to pay attention to is if you are not comfortable with inking, I would pencil out absolutely everything that you want to ink and then follow your pencil line specifically. But sometimes you can get drawings that feel really stiff when you do that because you're essentially tracing, and like I mentioned before, when you're tracing you can sometimes get this weird like stiff feeling to the drawings. So I like to have each material have its own kind of natural flow to it, but that's just my personal preference. I'm going to go ahead and add watercolors to these little images. I'm going to scan this in right now. And I did actually, you'll see I stopped for a minute because I forgot to scan it in before I started coloring it. And now I have to clean out the lion in Photoshop because I had it color before scanning it. But I'm going to have the free printable available for download if you sign up for the emailing list, available next week. And it's going to be added into my library. Me and Corey are working on having a Patreon in the future. And eventually I will have one of my Patreon tiers will be the ability to have free digital downloads, an entire library full of digital downloads. So anyways, that's something that's coming in the future. If you're watching this video in the future, then be sure to look out on my channel for a Patreon link because maybe it'll be available in the library. But until then, the only way to get it is if you're signed up for the mailing list. So I will link that in the description box below, as well as on my website. It'll be a monthly email that basically just shows you what I'm doing in the art world, that I'm doing in my bus and travel life, and little updates along the way. And then every single month will be a different free printable. So the first month, which will be the third week of June when this comes out, will be this printable, and then also the cat printable that I promised a few months ago. I will also be putting that in the first newsletter. And every month after that, there'll be some special coloring page or something. And if you have suggestions on what you'd like to see, please do let me know in the comment boxes below, or you can head on over to the community tab and comment on any of my most recent posts if it's been a while and you're watching this video. The next Doodle With Me poll will be available now, so please head on over to the community tab and vote for what you want to see next. For the next Doodle With Me, and hopefully I'll be a little bit more consistent in the future. I've been consistent on the channel now for about a month, so that's really... What? Goodness! This is why I don't film at home. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? So... I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, consistency. I've been consistent for a little over a month now, so hopefully the Doodle With Me's will be a lot more common. Please do head on over and vote. I promise it won't take me 6 months to do the next one. And thanks so much for joining, and until next time, remember to create, love, and travel on. Bye!